Hello. So I got a couple of treats from Pat McGrath, and I wanted to open them with you. So the first one here that we have is a Lilac Liaison from Pat McGrath's, what is this called? ChromaLuxe Pigments. I've been interested in these since they came out, and specifically this lilac one because it's really hard to find good cool tones, and in particular from Pat McGrath. But when she does them really, really well. So I was really excited to get this one. And I don't really know why it has this thing. If anyone can explain that to me, please let me know. But I am interested in this pigment. I did already open this one up and dig into it, so I already have thoughts on it. But we'll come back to swatch this once I've opened this other one. So this I've been interested in since it released, and this is the Blitz Sapphire single from Pat McGrath. It also comes with the eye gloss. I'm not very interested in the eye gloss, but I am very interested in this blue. And I have my Subliminal palette to compare with this blue, and we'll see how it's different because I can't quite tell in any of the photos that they have. So let's go ahead and open this up. Okay, I guess we're just gonna have sequins everywhere, which is fine. I know everyone gets annoyed with Pat McGrath sequins. I actually think that they're great. I keep them. I think that they're cool looking. I mean, look at these. Don't these look cool? I think they look great. Okay, they get to be in their little pile over here. All right, so do I even want to open this up? This does look pretty cool. Does anyone use this as like lip gloss or something? I'm never going to use it as eye gloss. But I also want to open this up. Oh, that does look really cool. Okay, I'll swatch that too. I'll figure out some way to use it. All right, so what do we have here? We have our ChromaLuxe. We have our Blitz Sapphire. Here, we're going to start with the Blitz Sapphire because I've been waiting to do this for a very long time. And I'm so curious to see how this compares with Subliminal. All right, so here is, this is called Blitz Blue, right? I hope that's what it's called. And here we have Blitz Sapphire. And I'm going to be really honest, in person, just looking at the pan, there doesn't appear to be a huge difference. Blitz Sapphire, I think, is a little bit more of that ultraviolet blue. It leans a little bit more in the way of, what is this thing called? Oh yeah, ultraviolet blue pressed pigment. It's a little bit more of that, okay, this one's a lot more purpley. This one has that deeper blue to it. This one is a little bit more of a regular blue. Like this is more of a royal blue, and this is a little bit more of a you're just regular blue. I can't think of what other blue terms there are. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and swatch these. And my hope is that this won't have the weird blackened pigment to it that this does. Except I did notice on the Pat McGrath website that this specifically says that it has a blackened pigment to it. So we'll see. We'll see if it ends up weirdly dark on me like the other one does. Okay, so that's Blitz Sapphire. And oh, that wasn't a very good swatch. This is Blitz Blue. And I think you can even see in just the finger swatches. There's not a huge difference here. So Blitz Sapphire looks like a brighter blue, maybe a little bit deeper too. And then Blitz Blue just looks more like your, like a more regular sea blue. It's just a little bit more little bit more muted than Blitz Sapphire. Has a little bit less of that purpley royal blue to it. But man, they're really similar. And you know what? I have it here, so let's just swatch this one too. This is a totally different kind of pigment, and it's very messy. Yeah, and you see how purpley that is. All right, so let's bring this up a little bit and let's swatch. Okay, let's take these out of the frame. I feel like sometimes whenever I have stuff in frame and I'm like trying to swatch, my camera tries really hard to focus on everything but the swatches. Okay, so this is Ultraviolet Blue. This is not a very good swatch of it, but you'll be able to see the color. This is Blitz Sapphire. And this is Blitz Blue. Okay, let's build up Blitz Sapphire a little bit. Ooh, okay. Yeah, once you break the surface, it's maybe a little bit different underneath. I always have to remind myself of that whenever I swatch Pat McGrath stuff for the first time, if it's a new palette. Okay, yeah. So hopefully you can see the differences here. The difference between Sapphire or Blitz Sapphire and Blitz Blue is not a very big difference. I'll have to see how Blitz Sapphire acts on the eyes. It doesn't look like it has much of that black pigment to it, but there's still a lot of depth to the color, which makes me think, you know what, let me try this. If I try to really spread this out here, does it get muddy on my skin? Because that's what happens with Blitz Blue. Doesn't get muddy. Let's try Blitz Blue over here by comparison. I guess there wasn't as much left on my finger. Yeah, even spread out like that, they... let me get just a tiny bit more of Blitz Blue. Just want to see if there's like a difference to the undertones, because I think that's what really bothers me with a lot of colors is the undertone. And it's so interesting because this one really spread out. It looks like it almost has a green undertone to it. And Blitz Blue looks like it doesn't have that green undertone, which is interesting because Blitz Blue always gets very muddy on my skin, like on my eyes. And here, Blitz Sapphire is looking more muddy, which is interesting. It also depends a lot on the lighting. Like my lighting in my room's a little bit weird, but yeah, there's a distinctive green undertone to this, which is interesting. So if you really build up the pigment of these, there isn't a huge difference. I think Blitz Sapphire is a little bit more of that beautiful, clear, jewel-toned sapphire blue. Blitz Blue is a little bit more dark, a little bit more murky. There's like this little bit of mutedness to it, but I mean, you can see right here, like the way that things are hitting the light. The difference is very subtle. There's a much bigger difference between both of these and Ultraviolet Blue than there is between these two. Now, if you're someone who prefers brighter colors, more jewel tones, you'll probably prefer this one, at least the way that I have it here. If you like things that are a little bit more muted, maybe have that really deep, murky undertone to them, you might like Blitz Blue better, but I'm going to be really honest with you. And I'll let you know once I use this a little bit if there's a big difference, but just from these swatches, I would not expect there to be much of a difference. And I guess I'm really surprised that Pat McGrath came out with this as like its separate little single thing, because it's just really not that different. It's not that different from Blitz Blue. So, I mean, it's really pretty. And I also actually really appreciate the fact that this appears to be the same pan size. So, or at least sometimes it's hard to tell. But no, I think they're the same pan size. Because my grand plan is to, once I figure out all of the Pat McGrath colors that I like the best, is to take apart all of my motherships and keep the colors that I like the most and get rid of the rest of the colors. And then also repurpose my Pat McGrath palettes by making them magnetic and putting all my favorite colors in them. So that's the grand plan. So I appreciate that if I wanted to finagle with this and add this in, I probably could. Probably could. Also, I'm going to be really honest, I like this packaging. It's very simple. I know a lot of people had issues with this kind of packaging in the past because they thought it felt cheap. And I'm going to be really honest, I do have some products from e.l.f. that have probably the same kind of packaging. Here's the thing, especially for this formula, I would like to pay for the formula only and not for the packaging. Unless, of course, it's in a Pat McGrath case, and then, you know, that's fine. But for singles, I actually really like this kind of packaging. I just thought I would say that because I've seen so much controversy around, like, you know, the oh so cheap plastic packaging. I think it looks fine. I think it's fine. All right, so that was a little underwhelming with Blitz Blue. So, you know, let me just use my other hand. These fingers are clean. Let's go into Lilac Liaison, and I also have, what is it called? Moonlit Seduction. I have Moonlit Seduction. There's one color in there that I want to compare this with, although I don't actually think it's going to be very similar, because this actually has a true purpley pink lilacness to it, whereas in Moonlit Seduction, this color was called lilac something or another, and there's supposed to be like a lilac shift to it, and to me it's always been just silver. So, but just in case you guys out there were wondering what they look like next to each other, how they swatch next to each other, I thought I would do that. I guess I could have gotten out the quad too. There's a quad that has, it's silver, but it has a purple flip to it. I don't think that it would be very similar to this at all. Although now that I'm looking at the palette next to the single, it seems to have, I don't know if it's similar undertones or similar like color, but this, this mauve-y color, this purpley mauve-y color, there's something about them that is similar to me in the color. It's almost like this is that the ChromaLuxe is the same color, but with a lot of silver sparkle to it. So that's interesting. So that tells me if you have this palette, I suspect that this is going to pair very nicely with Moonlit Seduction. So let's go ahead and swatch this. And this is an interesting texture. I know some people called it moussey. Oh, and I have stuff in the frame, and it's taking all of the camera's attention. Okay, well, there's there's the swatch. It is very metallic, very silvery. I'll have like a little bit here where you can see it blended out, because as much as this is like metallic, it blends out really nicely too. And I like that. That's what I always like about Pat McGrath formulas, is you can kind of use them however you want, or at least I have. I know some people have troubles with her formulas, but I find them very, very easy to use. I'm very much like a beginner with this kind of stuff, and I can kind of just smear Pat McGrath stuff all over my eyes, and it just ends up looking good. I mean, assuming it's the right undertones. But this is really pretty. And you know, it's funny. I feel like there's nothing really all that special about this formula, like for a Pat McGrath formula. But it is just so pretty, and I can't figure out if it's the formula that's so nice or if I just really like the color, because I don't really have this color anywhere. And it's a color that looks really nice on my skin tone. So yeah, it's a very nice lilac color. It has a little bit of a pinkiness to it. It has this beautiful, icy, almost silver sheen. And for me, that's really nice because a lot of things that proclaim to be this kind of a silvery, cool-toned color come to me and look champagne-y on me. They look warm-toned. Oh, that reminds me, I actually have something from e.l.f. Let me compare it. So the marketing got me for e.l.f. and I picked this up, and this is the pink one. Yeah, it's called Pop Off Pink. And look how similar these look in the pan. I mean, you can already tell in the pan that the e.l.f. one is not as cool toned, that it leans a little bit more almost gold and champagne and less pink. But they look like they should be similar, you know? But I've worn this and it's not bad. It's good for the price point, okay? But I didn't like the color. Now it doesn't come out of the pan very easily. You do really have to like dig into it a bit and like layer it. But, like, you see how that just blends in with my skin tone, which by the way isn't a bad thing, but it isn't what I thought I was buying. I thought I was buying a pink, sparkly, shiny eyeshadow. And instead I get this like champagne color. And this is a very good example of what lilac pink eyeshadows usually end up on me as, is they just kind of don't give me very much. Now, mind you, this is not supposed to be the same kind of a formula as the Pat McGrath. This was not marketed as a metallic, so it doesn't have as much pigment either. So I think you're gonna have a hard time actually comparing the pigments and maybe seeing what I'm ranting about a little bit. But the e.l.f. eyeshadow doesn't really come off as pink on me. It kind of comes off as like this reddish peach. It's not cool toned, is what I'm trying to say. And the sparkle too isn't giving me pink. It's actually giving me peach, almost gold. I think you can see it, how the light's hitting it right there. That's what I'm getting. And you see the difference in the undertone between this from e.l.f. and then the Pat McGrath Lilac. And so I really like this Pat McGrath one because it stays cool toned on my skin. Whereas this one from e.l.f., I'm sorry, but this is gold sparkle. This isn't pink sparkle. You see that? So, and this is pretty on me, by the way. Like, it doesn't look bad, but it's very much, it's like if I want a little bit of gold sparkle, that still looks good on me. This is it. But I don't want gold sparkle. If I wanted gold sparkle, I have so much gold from Pat McGrath that I could dig into. So I really like that this stays cool toned on me and that it has that beautiful shift to it. So now let me go back to Moonlit Seduction and get you that silvery shade. Okay, so let's take in a little bit from this one. And again, this one's going to be a very different formula. It's pretty flaky. And I'm going to put it down here. Oh, you know, I wish I put this on a different part of my hand. This is going to be hard to capture now. You know, this is going to pair very nicely with this lilac one. I don't know if you can see it in the camera because this is kind of a topper shade. There isn't a lot of pigment to it. It's actually going to be a bit more like the elf in terms of it being a topper shade. But it has a similar reflect to the Lilac Liaison. And that's so interesting because I've always thought of this as a silver and not a purple, but in this lighting I can see it now. And it's really neat because this has sparkle to it. I don't think you can see it in this lighting or on my camera, but this is nice and sparkly. Whereas this is, it's really more metallic. I feel like if I blend it out on my eyes, it can get, like, you can get a little bit of sparkle like at the edges, but it's not quite like this. And this is, I think this would be a really good combo because you could have this as your base, and wherever you want some actual like sparkle, you could put this on top and you would still have the same color. You wouldn't be changing the color at all. And in that way, you can also choose where you want to have your sparkle. Oh, that's so neat. I'm excited for this now. So yeah, I think that if you have Moonlit Seduction, I think this is going to pair really well with it. And you know, it's kind of reminding me now of, in Subliminal, there's this shade. Let's see, I think I'm running out of fingers. Let's see, okay, this one's mostly clean. Let's compare this to. This is one of those shades that I really like, but I wish it was a matte. I'm just gonna put it right here. There's like a little strip of skin. Yeah, that one's much more muted. So it doesn't really look like this one at all. It still has that purpliness to it, but it's like a very gray purple, which is why I like using it as a matte or as a crease shade, because I like those kind of colors for my crease. Because you see like on my skin tone how it looks like a shadow? I mean, it's still a little bit more warm toned than I personally would like, but that's most things with me. But I still think that these would pair nicely to each other. You know, if you have this kind of as a crease deepening shade or around the lashes, I think this color pairs nicely with Lilac Liaison as well. And actually it would be a really nice look to use this as like a deepening shade, put this all over the lid, and then have the sparkle on top. I think that would be really nice. Now, do I think that this would pair well with Subliminal? I mean, it probably would. I think it calls to this one as well. Now, Subliminal I don't love as much because this is pretty pretty warm toned on me, and so I struggle to use this palette as much because I kind of have this satin that I use as kind of as a matte. I don't like this black because it has too much of a it's too warm toned for me. It's like a neutral black, which I need a cool toned black. I just never like using browns because I get tired of them, but these are actually very nice browns. I just don't use them. And so I just end up not using much of this palette. I basically use this color whenever I feel like it, and I use these two of the special shades. This one I don't like because it looks muddy. I don't like using gold. This is too yellow. So I don't know. I think you're going to have to decide this one for yourself because I just don't really use this palette as much as I thought that I would. And I almost feel like if you really like Subliminal, you might not like how icy Lilac Liaison is. But I mean, you could also use it as like an accent color as opposed to all over the lid like I would use. So anyway, that's my thoughts there. Let me pull out Moonlit Seduction again. Yeah, this palette is just more useful to me. And I really like Lilac Liaison, so like I think that it pairs better with this palette, but I think I could see it pairing with either one of them very, very nicely. I really like this shade. I think this was really good. And I do like it a lot more than the e.l.f. one. The e.l.f. one, it's pretty. I didn't spend much on it, but you know when you get something and you think it's going to be one thing and then it's another and then you're disappointed because it wasn't what it said it would be? That's how I feel about this. I wanted it to be pink and it's not pink. It's kind of just champagne and gold. And then this one's just so messy. I love this color, but it's so, so messy to work with. Oh, and I never swatched this. Here, I got a pinky. I can just take out the lid. Yeah, this is a very goopy, liquidy formula. I don't know what you're supposed to use this for. I'm not going to use this on my lids. Let's put it up here. That is very pretty. I'll probably try to use this as lip gloss. I don't know if it will work well as lip gloss, but I'm not going to use this on my eyes. That is very pretty though. All right, so I think that's everything. Let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully I cleared up what differences or lack thereof there are between these two blue colors. They're very, very similar. I think if you have one, you really don't need the other. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I hope this was helpful to you, or at least entertaining. And if you made it to the end, thank you so, so much for sticking around. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.